What's up, everybody? Marvel the Cross 316 back with another comic book flashback. And today, y'all, we are looking at Amazing Spider-Man issue number 118. This issue was released in December of 1972, and it came out in March of 1973. And today, we are looking at the continuation of this storyline here with the Smasher. We have the Disruptor and Spider-Man all mixed in here, and we just have a really good, shocking ending to look at here. So you definitely do not want to click away because we have a great story to look at as we look at the conclusion to this storyline with the whole mystery surrounding Richard Raleigh and his involvement with the Disruptor and the Smasher. And why does the Disruptor want to ruin Richard Raleigh's campaign? That is what we're going to find out in this issue. We have the title here which says Countdown to Chaos, and the script is brought to you by Stan Lee and Jerry Conway. Stan Lee's joining Jerry Conway in this issue to help him out with the script. We have John Romita Sr., Jim Mooney, and Tony Mortarello doing the artwork. And we have Sam Rosen and Duffy on the lettering, coloring by Stan Goldberg, and editing by Roy Thomas. So let's go ahead now and pick up where we left off from last issue. Last issue, we saw that the Disruptor had sent the Smasher to go after Joe Robertson here, and that is exactly where we're picking up on this issue here. The Smasher's going after Joe Robertson, and Joe Robertson is a defenseless man. He's an elderly man, and he's just trying to think quick-witted here. He's like, what can I do to attack and defend myself against this giant behemoth of a man? And why is he glowing like this? And why is he after me? Well, thankfully, Spider-Man just so happens to come in for the rescue here, and he's going to tackle the Smasher here, saving Joe Robertson's life. And the reason why Spider-Man is doing this is he's doing this to distract the Smasher from getting to Joe Robertson. And so Spider-Man is going to have to put up a heck of a fight against the Smasher to save Joe Robertson's life. And Spider-Man is going to web him up. He's going to do everything he can do to really piss this guy off. And what Spider-Man does to keep track of the Smasher is he's going to throw a spider tracer on the back of the Smasher. The Smasher does not notice that he now has that spider tracer on his back. And so we have some great battle scenes here drawn by the great John Romita Sr. And so now Spider-Man's main goal is to distract the Smasher and make the Smasher go after Spider-Man. And that's exactly what happens here. Spider-Man is scaling this wall, and the Smasher is doing the same thing. He's like, man, I thought he would have lost his footing by now. But that muscle-bound killer must be part mountain goat. Well, we see Spider-Man needs to just say bye-bye to him for now because he doesn't want to continue to fight the Smasher because Spider-Man needs to gather his thoughts. He needs to plan for the next strategy and how to fight the Smasher, and he knows now that the Smasher is working for the Disruptor. And so that is the revelation that Spider-Man has realized from that fight with the Smasher. Well, as Spider-Man's swinging through the city and it's getting close to midnight, he notices some of his friends down on the street, and they are campaigning for Richard Raleigh. We have Harry Osborn, Gwen Stacy, and Mary Jane Watson. Well, Peter is going to change back to his civilian identity, and he is going to reunite with these guys, saying, hey lady, got a minute for a Raleigh recruit? And Peter and Gwen exchange with a great big kiss here. And we see that Harry Osborn's like, hey, where have you been, old buddy? My roommate, I haven't seen you in a while. Hey, I'm talking. And Mary Jane's like, Harry, can't you see they're in a whole other world? Let them be, Harrykins, and maybe pay a little more attention to your own girl." And Harry's like, "Sorry, MJ, wasn't thinking." Well, they get into that van and they're campaigning for Richard Raleigh. We have MJ on the radio campaigning for Richard Raleigh as Harry Osborn is driving, when all of a sudden, in the corner of his eye, he sees the Smasher. The Smasher is standing right there in the street, confronting the van that Peter and his friends are in. And he then see here that the Smasher is going to destroy this van. We see that Peter and all of his friends gets out just in the nick of time, and now the Smasher has changed his course. He's no longer after Joe Robertson. He's now after Richard Raleigh. This Smasher guy, we can definitely tell he is just a mixed up freak here. He has a lot of things going on in his brain. And something very weird is going on here. We're going to find that out as we continue to look at this issue. Well, through all the commotion and confusion, we see that Peter is going to run into a dark alley. He does not listen to Gwen Stacy's question here as to where are you going, because Peter is in a rush to go after the Smasher, because he placed that spider tracer on him. So now he's going to follow him at a close distance, trying not to detect his attention here. And we see that the Smasher is going to return back to the headquarters of the Disruptor. Well, we see here that Dr. Thaxton here is going to keep alerting the Disruptor that, look, you got to stop this before it gets out of hand. Maybe we bit off more than we can chew. Well, we see here that Spider-Man's going to show up on the scene, and this Disruptor's like, "Don't worry, I know just the way to destroy this masked interloper, and that is by clicking this button here, causing the Smasher to come," and that's exactly what happens. And so now Spider-Man's going to have to go toe-to-toe with the Smasher once again. We see Thaxton here saying, "Please, you got to stop pressing that button. He's too excited now. The artificial circuits I installed can't take an overload. Don't do it, man. Don't." And so Spider-Man's fighting this behemoth of a man, the Smasher. Meanwhile, we see the Disruptor is pressing that button so many times it is just causing so much pain to the head of the Smasher. Smasher's like, "I will do anything as long as you don't do that again." Well, the Disruptor says, "Exactly from the first. You've been my mindless slave, and so you'll remain unless you act." So he keeps pressing that button, causing the Smasher to just lose his head. And finally, he just completely loses all mental remains of his normal self. He has now become a madman, and he is on the loose, and he's out to destroy anything and everyone that's in his path. And we see that Thaxton here is going to try to get into his escape route here, in this hidden escape route. But because of the Smasher and him just destroying the roof and everything in between him, including the Disruptor, we see the ceiling just falls right on top of the Disruptor and Dr. Thaxton here, killing them both. And so now Spider-Man is left alone to fight this behemoth of a man, the Smasher. And the Smasher just seems to just have no weakness. Meanwhile, we see J. Jonah Jameson is still campaigning for Richard Raleigh, just spouting out all kinds of good things about him, saying, "Oh, we can all trust in Richard Raleigh. He's a man of everybody. He can destroy crime at any time." But we see here that the Smasher is going to continue to fight Spider-Man. Spider-Man's trying his best with every kind of strategy he has to think of to defeat this man. And he's like, "I got to come up with the soft spot." He has to have a weak spot here. So what Spider-Man does is he gives a karate chop on the side of his neck Well, the Smasher is like, you think that could have stopped me? That little side hand blow? He said, well, the notion did kind of grab me. And Smasher, while he's approaching, all of a sudden, his head is about to just explode here because of the pain. And because of that pain, the Smasher suffers, I would say, a blood clot to the brain, and he just falls down and he is dead. And so we see here that the polls are in and Richard Raleigh has won the election. But what we come to find out, and this is the shocking reality here, folks, is that the disruptor is Richard Raleigh. Richard Raleigh is the disruptor. This entire time, we see that the disruptor, who is Richard Raleigh, has been trying to destroy his own campaign. And for me, I don't understand why, but the story kind of just leaves that up in the air to the reader's own interpretation. We see J. Jonah Jameson, Joe Robertson, and the police show up. They find the dead body of the disruptor, who is Richard Raleigh. And because of the anger and the frustration out of this, and because he thinks Spider-Man was involved, J. Jonah Jameson is going to write up an editorial about how much of a leader Richard Raleigh was, that he was a brave man and stood in the midst of danger, when all along we know that J. Jonah Jameson is wrong, because that disruptor was Richard Raleigh. And so that is how we end this issue. We see kind of a glimpse as to what we're going to be looking up next, and that is Spider-Man fighting everybody's favorite green giant. That's right. Spider-Man's going up against the Incredible Hulk. Oh yes, folks, I'm looking forward to covering that issue in issue 119. Hope to see y'all there. But go ahead now, drop a like on this video. Comment down below, what do you think about this ending of the story with the disruptor being Richard Raleigh? And comment down below just to say, what do you think is going to happen next with Spider-Man and the Hulk? And I will see y'all in the next one.